When you hear the phrase home for Christmas, what do you think of? Is it the place where you live now and the thought of staying where you are, nesting in? Or is it a place where you grew up, the place where your accent comes from or your family still live? Or is home for you even something bigger than that, a place where your culture or language comes from? I've had a bit of a disconnecting experience recently. My parents moved away from the house where they've lived for a really long time. And my hometown, the place where I moved when I was about 10, well, the church in which I became a Christian has changed. Lots of the leaders and people who helped me as I'm growing up aren't there anymore. The house that I lived has changed. It's got different people there. And some of my really good friends are living all over the place. And it means I don't have a reason to visit anymore, apart from maybe to visit the Pound Bakery, which is amazing. It's basically like a pound shop with baked goods. That's amazing. But on a serious note, sometimes when we think of our past and we think of what we've been through, it can feel like we don't have any control, like we don't have any agency. The stuff that we went through, maybe we weren't able to determine. And we live with the effects of things that we had no say in. In today's reading, we come across another incredible woman who is in the genealogy of Jesus, Bathsheba. But I think there's an interesting thing about Bathsheba, that she has less control and takes more control than maybe we would have thought. See, the image of Bathsheba from films and depictions of what happened between her and David is of this woman having a sexy Radox bath on top of a roof, and then somehow in her beauty and her wiles she charms this up to now pure king into sleeping with her and killing her husband. But of course that's a ridiculous way of reading the text. Bathsheba is cleansing herself from her menstrual cycle while her husband is away at war, and the king summons her. She has no choice. She has no choice politically, legally. She has to obey the king. Does she even have a choice spiritually, morally? Can she turn down God's anointed? The power dynamics mean that we can't really think of this as a consenting encounter. David compounds the violence against Bathsheba by having her husband killed. What must that mean for her? To suddenly be taken out just because of her doing something that was, a regular, normal, biological occurrence, being taken out of her home, of her marriage, of her life before, and brought to the palace where she was, to be blunt, she was one of many. When Nathan the prophet confronts David, he describes her as like the only lamb belonging to a poor shepherd that is snatched away by someone in their greed. But today, we're not reading that story. We're reading another story that also features that prophet Nathan who confronts David. And it shows that Bathsheba is this incredible woman who takes control, who takes agency, despite the fact that maybe she didn't have a say in what happened to her before. She will have a say in what happens next. She will, most importantly, have a say over what happens to her children. David is getting old in years, and the throne that was promised to Bathsheba's son is being fought over by other relatives. And she steps in. She steps in and she makes sure that her family gets what it deserves. She makes sure she gets the place that the king has promised. She makes sure she secures her future. She secures her safety for herself and her children. And it's from that stepping up, from Bathsheba's own moment of standing before the king and requesting something, her own Esther moment, as we'll talk about tomorrow, that we have the line of Jesus. Again, we might include Bathsheba in this list of women who maybe on first reading we might think, oh, what an odd fit to be in the family tree of Jesus. These women who are victims of male hubris, maybe even of male sexual violence, of being dismissed, of sexism, of all the power and all the cards being stacked against them. But when we look at these stories, we realise that these women carry incredible dignity. Incredible dignity. They end up playing key roles in the story of God. And that is something that happens through the grace of God. Many victims may not reach the place of being able to have the same sort of agency or control over their life that these incredible women do. But in God's grace and in God's story, even the most broken and painful things that we can go through, even the hardest parts of our identity, homes that are full of pain or homes that don't exist anymore, can be used to tell his story of grace, to take part in making the way for his son to come home, to come to us. So as you pray today, I wonder if you could just ask that question of, where is home? And perhaps if home for you has been a place that has been defined by a broken relationship or some painful situation that you have walked through, maybe you could ask God today how he is using that to grow you, to love you, to make his grace complete. That is a challenging prayer today, but I pray to God that as you do that, he would so fill you with his peace and his comfort this Christmas time.